Oh my god, have you seen this? Please, take a look at just all of this. We are thriving right now. Superman fans, we have never been more back than this. James Gunn's movie has been shooting for a few months now, but we have finally gotten some set photos that show off the whole cast of characters, from the Man of Tomorrow himself to a surprise villain that we'll get to later. Obviously, there are going to be some spoilers ahead, but I won't be talking about anything from the plot until a specific section at the end of the video, and there's a warning and everything, so you can't really miss it. But until then, let's not waste any more time because I have a lot to say about these pictures that have been driving me insane over the last few days. Up first, of course, we have to talk about the big thing everyone's been looking at, and that is the costume. Now, me personally, I was defending that original reveal that Gunn did a few months back. I thought it looked pretty good. I like the vibe they were going for with Superman just putting his shoes on one boot at a time, but I do think it was a mistake to have the suit revealed battle damaged and at this weird angle where you couldn't really see everything. I think that's a really cool picture to show off at a later date, but as for our first look at the costume, I wasn't really thrilled that was it. I still think the overall suit looks good though, but now, to see it in broad daylight and in action and all these different shots, I am in love with this costume. I love everything they've done with it. I think that this has the potential, depending on how things go, to be one of the greatest comic book movie costumes ever. Is it too early to say that? Probably. Am I just getting caught up in the hype? Absolutely. But I do really like this costume a lot and what they're doing. It's much better than that initial reveal, and it gives a really good sense of what Gunn is going for the tone of the movie, along with the look of Superman in this modern setting. The big takeaway here for me is these bright, vibrant colors, because this is all I've wanted to see from a Superman costume for years. I don't need those muted colors we've had to suffer through for years. I want a Superman who has those bright primary colors on full display, and this is it. We've finally gotten it, and I could not be happier. I'm just so glad to see Superman actually look like he should for once, and they're not desaturating it to make it look more realistic and gritty. This is a larger-than-life comic book universe, and we have a Superman at the forefront with some of the most vibrant colors I've ever seen in a comic book movie, and for that alone, I'm willing to forgive a lot of things on this suit just for those vibrant colors, because that's all I really ever want to see when it comes to Superman. But what I want to focus on here that I am so over the moon about is that he has the trunks. We got a little preview of them in that initial reveal, but we can see them in their full glory in broad daylight, and they are perfect. In my opinion, any Superman costume without the trunks is a bad take. Not only from an aesthetic choice, because the big red trunks always take up part of the suit and they block out the colors and it just makes things look better, but from how Superman is supposed to be this wholesome character, and the trunks kind of humanize him a bit, and they take him down from this alien god to just somebody who resembles a strongman, which is the original idea for it, and why all these superheroes used to always wear trunks is because they were supposed to be strongmen, and they took inspiration from strongmen of the past. So it makes Superman feel more human, and it brings him down to earth, and they're intrinsically silly, but that's the whole point of them. It makes him a more comforting figure when he has these trunks on. So to see the trunks here in all their glory with the bright yellow belt going across them as well, which I am in love with, I think that looks incredible. It just made me the happiest ever. And if you're a Superman fan from the comics or other mediums, you should be delighted to see the trunks done in a way that hasn't been done since the Christopher Reeve costume. I'd say the trunks on this suit are better than the Reeve suit, with the textures and the depth of it, where that belt actually looks pretty tangible. It's not flat, it's not spandexy, it's like an actual costume that you would see Superman wearing, and I can't say enough good things about the trunks. As long as the suit had the trunks, I'd be happy with it, and they exceeded all my expectations. I've just been blown away by how good these trunks look on the costume. I've said it before in other videos, but I do really like that crest on the front of the suit also. The Kingdom Come logo is my personal favorite of Superman's logos, so to see it done in this new way with the yellow design on there, I really like a lot, especially the yellow outline around it. I think it adds a lot to break up the design and make it stand out on that blue background, which I think looks really good. I love how big it is and how much space it takes up on the costume. I think it's nice to see this larger-than-life hero with a big emblem just proudly displayed in full bright colors. We've seen the crest a lot already. That was the first initial reveal months ago when Gunn just posted this picture of the crest, and now to just see that fully exposed, I love it even more. I would not hesitate to say this is my favorite Superman logo to date. I don't ever see it being beaten. I know it's not the traditional one. I think it'd be cool if he did get that down the line, but I think to establish him as his own unique Superman when there are so many others out there, it's smart to do something that is both new and pays homage to the Superman that came before, like with the Flesher S and the Kingdom Come Superman and then the classic logo. It just brings everything together to make a really cool and unique design that stands out amongst the rest. And also, they even put the crest on the back of the cape. You can see that yellow emblem right there, which I personally like. I know there's a lot of discourse around everything when it comes to superhero costumes, but I always like the cape with the crest on the back of it because I think it adds a lot to the design. Yeah, the red cape can look good, but I think when you have the S on there, it just adds that little extra detail. I think it looks good. It pops really well when the yellow is contrasted against the red background, and I'm really glad to see that. All that being said, as much as I really do love this suit, it definitely isn't perfect. Life is good, but it can be better. The big thing I've seen a lot of people complaining about, which I definitely understand and do agree with, is the lines on the costume. Lines lines are always a hot topic when it comes to superhero costumes because I feel like some suits overdo it and they're unnecessary and don't really add anything besides to try and make it look modern and updated and space age or whatever. So I understand why people are apprehensive to see them. I do think here, though, is the best case scenario if we had to have him on the costume. Me personally, I think this would probably be my favorite Superman costume if the lines just weren't there. If you take that away and you smooth everything out, I think this would by far be the best. Unfortunately, they're here, we gotta deal with them, but I do think this is the best case scenario because they're not a different color. You see costumes like the Ant-Man costume where the lines are there and they're all different colors and it kind of becomes a visual mess. There's no consistency, it's just lines for the sake of it. But on this costume, it's the same color as the material of the blue in the suit. So to me, they don't really stand out too much. It's more of a texture thing, and I think that is the best way to do it on these costumes because it breaks up the single blue. So to see them not really distract you from the costume anyway, but just kind of be there to add texture and dimension while also giving it this more modern look, I think it works for what they're going for. I really wish they weren't there, honestly. I do think it would look a lot better if they just completely got rid of them and we had that smooth costume that we're used to. It leans a little too far into the New 52 look for me when you add all those lines in that are just there to try and make it look more modern and realistic instead of just giving us this larger-than-life Superman costume. But mostly everything else on there is really working for me, so I can look past a few lines when we have colors this vibrant in the trunks. The other big topic of contention is the collar on the costume. I will say, it's growing on me. I know in the first video I was kind of critical of it, but here I think they've made some changes from that original suit, because if you look at these two images side by side, all close up, the collar on the old suit is more of a turtleneck, while this one is more of like a classic collar where it goes out from the neck, and I think it looks a lot better like that. The turtleneck look, I don't like at all. The more I've sat with it, the more I've kind of not really liked it, but seeing this one here, this is how you do a collar on a suit, where it's not just this flat design, it actually like goes down with the neck, and I think that looks good for the costume, and somehow they won me over. I've never been a Superman collar fan, but here, I really like what they did with it. Another case of, I think it would look better if it just had the neckline, but this is the design they're going for. Maybe this is just the suit at the beginning of the movie, and then by the end we get a more traditional Superman costume, which I'd be all for. But I think that, I'm not afraid to admit it, I'll be the first to say that they nailed it on this suit. And hey, if you're a collar hater, I totally get it. I thought I would be too. I was originally on that old suit, but I do think it looks really good on this design, so I'll give them credit, they made it work. And one last thing I've seen a lot of people talk about that I don't really think is a fair critique is that the suit is baggy. Because a lot of the time, a lot of these superhero movie costumes are baggier on purpose to give the actors more mobility on set when they're moving around, doing all these action scenes, just actually being able to walk around and breathe in these things. And then in post-production, they go in and they tighten things up. We've seen this countless times. If you look at the Black Panther costume from Civil War, if you look at the Captain America costume from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they go in after the fact and they tighten up the suit to make it look more skin tight like you would on a comic page. So I think critiquing that aspect of the suit right now is a little unnecessary, and we should wait to see the final product because there are a lot of different changes they can make to get rid of that bagginess and make it more skin tight like people are looking for. And I don't think it's really accurate to say that this is the final design. We need to keep that in mind when we're looking at this costume and analyzing all these pics, that this is not the finished product. This is what they do on set, and a lot of the time they always go back in post-production and change things up. For better or for worse, this will not be the suit design that we see in the movie. And even then, I don't hate the bagginess. Alright, I think it looks good if anything. I'm sick of seeing a Superman costume like the Man of Steel one that looks like it's spray painted on him. It just doesn't really look good when it's that tight in my opinion. I like more of like a spandexy look to where it's breathable, but I also think that for this new take on Superman, it's interesting to go with a baggier look as if it were his uniform that he puts on for work, which I think could be a little wholesome aspect of it. But I like that it's just kind of clothes he just puts on one sleeve at a time. I think that could ground him more as a character, and I think it could be a really interesting take on the costume, and I think that we have to not only wait things out to see how it looks on screen, but also be more open-minded to this take on Superman. And I do think it would look better if it wasn't as baggy, but I also don't think I hate it either. I think it looks fine, and I don't think it's really that big of a deal at all. I like when they take different risks and they try something new. I'm a fan of it personally. To me, the most important thing about a Superman suit is how does it look from far away. So to look at these set pictures and you can see those bright colors from a block away, and you can make out the S and every part of the design, that is what's important to me, because that makes it an iconic and timeless design. You can see it from far away. It's not a bird, it's not a plane. You can tell that that is Superman. And I think that's the mark of what makes it a great costume, is that you can see it from far away and still appreciate it. You can look up close and appreciate the details on it. And it all just comes together to make a really solid and great costume in my opinion. Enough about that Superman guy though. Let's focus on Clark Kent, the other lead of this movie. Now, I don't know why a lot of people are saying he looks like Superman, because that's clearly a different person. Like, you look at these guys side by side. What are you talking about? You have to be crazy to think that that's Superman. But in all seriousness, the thing I love about this is that you can't really tell, because they went out of their way to make Clark look different from Superman. They changed his hair up and made it more curly and more poofy when he's in Clark Kent persona, and I think that goes a long way in differentiating these two personas in a realistic way too, because he can just mess up his hair and boom, now he looks like Clark Kent. And I think it adds a lot lot to finally settle that stupid argument of do Superman and Clark Kent being obviously the same person, because such a simple aesthetic difference like this goes a long way in establishing these two identities and how far Clark goes to hide them. Obviously, this like perm kind of look for Clark Kent is new, but I do think it's a good look for him. David is rocking it. I think that it really suits him. But the best part of this is David's performance as Clark Kent, because just from these few snippets, I can already tell it exactly what I hoped he would be, in that he's playing this more earnest buffoon of a character, which is exactly what Clark Kent is, while Superman is this larger-than-life superhero who's always standing up straight. Clark Kent is always leaning over, and he's hunched, and he's a clumsy guy. And I think that you could see in this clip right here that David's energy as Clark is perfect. He has that chaotic energy as he's stumbling through the streets, rushing to get to the planet. I can already tell that David is going to be a perfect Clark Kent. He's putting all this thought into his performance, and I cannot wait to see how he is on screen. He's killing it, as expected. He's one of the best casting decisions of all time. I'm always going to stand by that, and I'm just really excited to see his Clark, maybe even more than his Superman, because I think we all know what to expect with Superman, but when it comes to Clark Kent, I feel like we haven't gotten a definitive version since the Christopher Reeve movies. All these other versions are either good to okay, but Reeve was the standard, and I think David is the person who's most going to be able to either replicate that or make it his own in this way. He's already doing some great work just from this one low-quality set video. Like, imagine what he's going to do for a whole 2 hours of a movie. It just gets me so hyped. Also, we're understandably focusing a lot on Superman and Clark Kent as they're the biggest character in the movie, but I'd say that Mr. Terrific's costume is even better. It's, dare I say, tremendous. Wait, you thought I was going to say something else? Like, it's a basic costume in the comics, so it's really hard to mess up. Even the Arrowverse got it right, but this is genuinely perfect. It's as if the character existed in real life and just jumped right off the pages, and I think that it is the best costume we could have ever gotten for this character. I'm interested to see what role he has in the movie, because I feel like Mr. Terrific isn't a character who's ever gotten his due, and from what I know about Mr. Terrific, he's got a lot of potential, and I feel like he was made for the movies in a way, and I don't understand why it's taken this long to see him on the silver screen, but they're already doing him justice with this costume. It's a simple look, it has bright colors. I just really like how much white is in the suit to contrast the black of the jacket and the red accents. It's just nice to see him done so faithfully, to the point where it even has the fair play written on the arms and the terrific on the back. They're not going to shy away from any of the branding, which is good. A lot of the time, comic book movies want to hide that these are superheroes. Like, we still haven't gotten Daredevil with the double D's on him. But in this universe, from the start, they're just going to have these characters looking like they should in the comics, which is so good to see. I'm glad that we're finally in an era where we're moving past black leather. Like, no, this is Mr. Terrific. He's going to advertise that to the world because he's a hero trying to inspire people. Even the T-mask on his face looks really good. That's a look from the comics I always feel like it's hard to pull off in live action because it's like a flat T. But in these set photos, you can see that they're actually doing it and they're not shying away from it. It's just this flat T on his face, and it looks really good. We never see these kinds of faithful masks adapted in comic book movies anymore. But now, thankfully, Gunn is bringing it back to where we see Mr. Terrific's classic T-mask. It's just the classic look from the comics, jumped right off the page, brought to life, and I could not be happier with how it came out. And this costume right here should be an indicator of how well they're going to be doing it. So props to the whole team. They are killing it with the superhero costumes thus far. When talking about Superman characters, though, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the Daily Planet staff and his supporting characters. It's been so long since they've actually been done right and been focused on in live action, but I'm really happy to see them in so many of these set photos because it means they're going to have a very pivotal part in the movie. It's long overdue that these characters are at their time to shine because just as important as the Superman identity is Clark Kent. Part of what makes him so interesting is that dual identity and seeing how he manages to save the world all while being a reporter at the biggest news organization in Metropolis. I'm really glad to see Gunn highlighting them and his life as a reporter because it means that we're going to be able to see this aspect that's been done dirty recently. So to know that these characters are not only known, but we're seeing them appear in like a big action sequence like this and Superman actively saving them is really cool, and I'm glad that we're going to be getting to see this in the movie. So let's start with the most important one and the character I'm most excited to see out of his group, the one and only Lois Lane, played by the lovely Rachel Brosnahan, who might be the best casting in this movie. David is going to be great as Superman, but it's been a while since we've had a really good Lois Lane adaptation in movies. We've obviously gotten it in My Adventures with Superman and on the small screen in Superman and Lois, but I feel like it's been a while since in the movies and in the cinematic universe we got a Lois Lane who's actually had stuff to do. So to cast a big name actress like Rachel Brosnahan is really exciting, and I feel like she could be the definitive version of Lois Lane. I mean, just look at her. She looks exactly like Lois in the comics come to life in the best possible way. Plus, if you look at her background on The Marvelous Miss Maisel, she clearly has what it takes to play this character, so I'm really excited to see her here in that iconic purple too. I've always associated Lois Lois Lane with purple because she always wears it in the comics. So to see Gunn doing something simple as just keeping her in that color scheme, it really makes her feel like she's come to life. I cannot wait to see her and Clark's dynamic. Gunn has talked about how well they work together in the chemistry test, so I can't wait to see that actually brought to life and see how they act together, whether it's her dynamic with Superman or Clark or both when she learns the identity. It's going to be great. And just seeing her eat up Clark in the newsroom with her classic sass is going to be really fun. I'm just really looking forward to see Lois Lane done right, and I think that Rachel has the potential to be the best cast character in this movie and maybe even the heart of the movie. So seeing her like this, it's very nice and reassuring to me that this adaptation is in good hands. And also, off the record, Clark Kent, can he fight? I'll fight him. Up next is Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, who's also another amazing casting choice. Skylar Gisondo, I believe it's pronounced, is basically Jimmy Olsen come to life. I mean, just look at him. He has that awestruck, chaotic energy you want in Jimmy Olsen. I'm very glad they actually went with this fan casting because I think he is the exact kind of actor you want playing Jimmy. And it's going to be nice just to see Jimmy Olsen in a Superman movie again because, again, not to keep ragging on the DCEU, but they did Jimmy so dirty. Like, he got shot in the head the last time he was in a movie. That's insane to me. Superman's wholesome pal, Jimmy Olsen, who he's always getting in trouble and Superman's always helping him out of things, was shot in the head and murdered. Yes, I'm still bitter, as you can tell. So I'm just really glad that he's going to be here and causing all different sorts of hijinks. I think that you've got a great actor in the role, and he looks the part. I like the little Letterman jacket type look he has going on. If you can't tell, I'm just excited that we're going to be getting Jimmy Olsen because he brings so much life to Superman's stories, and it's not a proper Superman adaptation without him. As for the others, I'm just going to speed through them because I don't have much to say besides they look cool, but we got Perry White looking good, smoking that Lex Luthor pack. Then we got Steve Lombard, played by the ever underrated Beck Bennett, one of my favorite comedy actors, one of the best parts of SNL when he's on there. He's so charismatic and commits fully whatever he's doing. He's rocking the mustache. I'm really excited to see how he just bullies Clark in the newsroom. And of course, I say the best for last with Cat Grant because, like, good God, man. What am I even supposed to say about her? Generational. What a woman. I need to find a way how to get hired at the Daily Planet immediately. Alright, now we're about to enter the spoilers section. It's time for spoilers. I'm currently stalling and dragging this out so you can click ahead to this timestamp right here on the screen if you don't want spoilers for the 2025 Superman movie. And time's up. Okay, here we go. Rip the band-aid off. Let's get into all the spoilers because there's a lot to break down in this next photo right here. To me, this is the most fascinating set pick we've gotten thus far because it's the first one that actually dives into some plot details. The other ones have just been vague, out-of-context pictures of the set, but this one here gives us some actual plot moments where you see Superman being arrested. First of all, free my man. He didn't do anything wrong. There's a miscarriage of justice. I think we need to get him out of here. But you can see right there on the left is Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr., who's going to be making his debut in Creature Commandos before this. He's going to appear in Peacemaker Season 2. And then finally in the Superman movie as someone who's arresting Superman, which is very interesting. I wonder what kind of role he's going to have there if he's this government stooge, opposed to his son, Rick Flag, who, rest in peace, King, is now someone who's more blindly working for the government, maybe it seems. He's more of a hard ass. He's arresting Superman. Is Superman being framed for something? Are they bringing him in for questioning because he's new on the scene and they don't know what his intentions are? It's hard to say, but then on his right, you see the engineer from the team, the Authority, is going to be getting their own movie down the line, which is also very interesting because the Authority are a superhero team that don't go by any rules or laws. They are willing to get the job done by any means. So if the engineer is here working with Rick Flag Sr., you have to wonder what's the goal here? Why do they not trust Superman? Why are they trying to arrest him? But most interestingly enough is who seems to be Ultraman right there. Big black suit looking more like Black Noir from The Boys, but that big U on the chest is very reminiscent of Ultraman, who's been rumored to be in this movie for a while now. Now, traditionally, Ultraman is from Earth 3. There's a whole different backstory behind that character. It looks to be Gunn changing it up completely for this movie. So let me just break down my theory for what's happening here, where I think that Ultraman, maybe in the second act or something, is going to reveal to be a Superman clone created by Lex Luthor to rule with a more iron fist. For whatever reason, Lex doesn't like Superman in this adaptation. He's going to get some of his DNA and clone him, and then Ultraman is going to be Lex's stooge with the government, as the government has their own Superman they can control, who is this ruthless killer using Superman's powers with no regard for anyone else, just getting the job done. And then over the course of the movie, his mind is going to degrade away until he's more like Bizarro. So they're going to be taking Ultraman as the identity assumed in this universe, where Lex just says, oh, well, he's Ultraman, better than Superman, blah, blah, blah. And then we slowly see him become Bizarro, which I think would be interesting. But basically, this whole thing is going to be a commentary on the evil Superman trope, which I think is really smart. A lot of Superman's public perception has been ruined over the last few years because of how many evil Superman there are, whether it be from The Boys, Invincible, so many different DC projects that have adapted an evil Superman. People have gotten a bad idea of the character and think he's only interesting when he's evil. So I think Gunn making this almost rebirth of the character in live action and dedicating it to why evil Superman is bad is a really smart way to tackle this in a meta commentary and show why wholesome Superman is better than evil Superman. So you see them directly face off, and while Lex Luthor is still the primary villain of the goal, this Ultraman Bizarro type character is the secondary villain doing things that Lex physically can't, if any of that makes sense. That way you can bring Superman back into the spotlight where he belongs, combat any of the awful takes people have about evil Superman, and show people directly this is why Superman is good and evil Superman is bad, and hopefully we can put this age of evil Superman characters behind us, because I'm so sick of that, and I think it's a really interesting idea if the scenario I just made up in my head comes to life. I could be very wrong. I probably am wrong, let's be honest. But that's just a theory. The whole shebang theory. Yeah, I'm sorry, that didn't feel right either. Alright, now that we're out of the spoilers section, welcome back to those of you who clicked ahead. Goodbye to those, I guess, who just clicked off the video. You're a coward. You can't hear me, but you're a coward. But what's really exciting to me about these set picks is with all the things we've gotten, we still have no idea where the plot is going, which is great. I'm really glad that things have been left in the dark so much, and there are still so many characters that have been announced for this film that we haven't even seen yet, whether that be Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, Metamorpho. They're all on their way, and they're bound to have some really comic-accurate costumes, which is going to be nice to see, whether that be in upcoming set photos, in trailers. I'm just really looking forward to learning more and more about this movie, because it sounds like it's going to be a blast from start to finish. But that brings me to the big question of the video that I teased in the thumbnail. Is this the best Superman costume? No, it's not the best, but it's pretty close. I'd say it's my second favorite in live action. Brandon Routh's costume from the CW Crisis event still takes it. I don't know if you're ever going to be able to top that. Personally, for me, it has everything I want in a Superman movie. It's simple, the texture's great, and I think is the gold standard for costumes, which makes it even crazier that the CW somehow did it. But again, this is a new idea. The CW costume is the comic costume brought to life. Gunn has done his own fresh take, which I really respect because it's a bold choice, and I'll always appreciate when creatives do something new rather than just going back to what we all know and are familiar with. It might not be the best, but it's pretty high up there for me. I would definitively say it's my second favorite. I cannot say enough good things about this costume or the movie, honestly. The more we see things from this movie, the better it looks and the more excited I get. It is shaping up to be one of the biggest events in superhero movie history, as they're putting in so much love and care into the costume, filming on locations and practical sets. It's all such good news, and really shows me that Superman is in great hands here. After years of people calling him a boring character, misunderstanding Superman, it's been really nice just to see so much hype and excitement around the character again, and I really hope that Gunn is able to make him the most popular hero that he once was, and try and remind everyone why Superman is so special. We haven't even gotten to the first trailer, and I'm already seeing people come around on the character, which is such a good thing to see. It just makes me really happy, alright? I used to pray for times like this where Superman would be important and a cultural icon again. But I'm gonna end the video there. I need to go overanalyze every single one of these set picks until I see them in my sleep, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Thank you all for watching. Let me know down below what you think about the costume in this new light, and if it has made you more or less excited for the movie. If you want to see another video like this, you can click right here, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, they're gonna make this costume an ugly, muddy nanotech blue, and I can't go back to that ever again, so please, for the love of God, subscribe to save us from that nightmare.